What is happening, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of Expert Mentors Live. And we have the OG, the expert mentor himself, Mr. Kyle Whissel in the house. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to come back. I just love that we've kept this going. Like this idea that we had 7 years ago is still going today, man. And it doesn't happen without you.
Well, I appreciate that. And it wouldn't have happened without you. And I remember you and this is, what I get for not being on the call. Right. And I'm like, hey, Kendra, can you handle the call? He's like, yeah. Beer and Kyle want to chat about something. I was like, okay, man, I can't make it. Can you just fill me in? And so he texted me later. He said, hey, I'll fill you in. By the way, you're going to run a new show for us. And I was like, okay, so I am. All right. That's what I get for not being on there. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, brother. And 295 episodes in, and it's good to always have you in the house with us.
Very impressive, dude.
Appreciate that. And I'm excited to get into today's topic. I mean, if I look out across the entire industry, there's nobody more qualified to talk about this than you. And so I'm really excited for you to unpack, kind of what you're seeing in the trenches. You kind of see the future, things that we were even touching on before we went live. And I was like, hey, well, we can go deep. Let's get record. Let's get this recorded before we talk about it too much. So I'm excited for you to jump in, and man, I'm gonna let you kind of segue us in and things year to date and things that you're kind of seeing. Last conversation that we had you here on the Expert Mentor series was actually a year ago. Tomorrow will be 1 year. We had you July 3rd, and it's crazy how much has happened in the last 12 months. And then kind of having your crystal ball, looking into the future, just all the red flags that are out there that these agents and these teams need to be thinking about.
For sure. Yeah. So when we came over, we were an independent brokerage. At the time, I had 25 agents. 24 of those 25 came with us. That year, we did 167 million. This year, last year we did over 600 million. This year, we're on track to do over 800 million. We got a few fun things in the works right now that will put us over $1 billion. And so just in this massive scaling up mode right now, I think that there's some unprecedented opportunities in the real estate space that haven't existed for a long time. And it's a really big opportunity for those with the appetite to scale up right now and go from big to massive.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about what's on the horizon.
Who should not even be thinking about this, right? Like there's things when you take on this endeavor, right? It's like, I'm not willing to do that. Like I will never sign up for that. Some non-negotiables, thinking about building almost any size team, but kind of the level where you're at and where you're going. Yeah. I had Mr. Jack Perry on one of the shows a couple weeks ago. So really stayed in high touch with Jack, and just hearing his leadership style, and where they're at with 200 plus agents, obviously, at another company, but being able to get that insight to see, his DNA, his character, his makeup. But I would love to get from you, like, don't even think about even going to this in a large team if you're not willing to do this or have this type of character or this type of commitment.
Yeah, I mean, if you pride yourself and say I hate people, don't start a fucking team. Just don't. It's not gonna work. I've talked to so many people I hate people. Do not start a team. It's not gonna work, right? That would be number one. That's a non-negotiable. If you hate people, don't start a team. It's funny, you can actually be a good salesperson if you hate people, but you cannot be a good team leader if you hate people. So you got to have the right mindset. You have to love people, and you have to love watching people succeed. I get so much joy out of empowering somebody to go out there and crush it, and then watching them crush it. And then the beauty of being a team leader, or even being here at EXP, is I win when my agents win. Right. And the better job I do of helping them win, the more I win. And it's so much more fun to win with people than to win by yourself. And so I truly love that. It fuels me. It makes me so happy to see people, crushing it and accomplishing all of their goals. And so if you don't have that kind of a mindset where you like people, you like to watch people win, you like to help people, you like to see people grow, you like to see people accomplish their goals, if you don't think that way, like, I don't know if running a team is right for you.
Mm.
And also, if you're not willing to take a step back, to take, I mean, if you play it right, 10 steps forward, that's also really important. A lot of people think that they can keep going at the same speed they've been going as a solo agent and start a team and not slow down. And it doesn't work that way, right? You got other people you have to think about. You can't just keep running.
Yeah.
You've got to take a step back, slow down, get them up to speed, and then you can all run together and everything can be great. But if you're not willing to take a step back, then it's going to be really hard for you to build a team the right way. And most of those teams where, it's just a really strong producer and they're like, all right, I got to have some buyer's agents around me, and they don't train them. They don't do anything with them. They just keep running and like, well, I got these people around me. They should just sell homes. Like, it's not going to work. And you're going to be miserable. I find there's so many people that are running teams that maybe saw me, Parker Pemberton, right? Some of the bigger names. And they're like, I want to be like that. But it's like, they don't have the right heart. They don't have the right mindset. They're not willing to slow down. They're not willing to get in the lab and build. They just want to keep running, and it just doesn't work that way. You got to slow down to speed up, take a step back, take a step, 2 steps forward. Like, you can do something really special. But if you don't have the right mindset and you don't really love people and love seeing people succeed, it's going to be really hard for you.
I don't think you can fake that either, right? That has to be just authentically
But
you.
it shows its true colors pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that you say that, and you're so spot on. Right. And I think a lot of people start adding the people out of desperation, right? They're just, just things they're running, they're redlining for so long that they're just exhausted, but they just don't know how to slow down, or they're not willing to, like you said, slow down for a second.
Yeah. And if your first hire is another agent, you're already fucked up. You're already in trouble. Like, your first hire when you're building a team is not another agent. Like, you're automatically screwing it up right out of the gate. Like, you got to have a really badass rock star admin before you worry about hiring an agent. People always like, I need buyer's agents. But you're just freestyling everything. Like, you have zero systems, zero processes. You have nothing in place. You're the one and only person that understands what the hell you're doing. And all of a sudden you're going to just like bring on an agent and think that they're going to succeed. Like, it's not going to happen. And I know that because I tried that a long time ago. I was just like, I had initially, like back in the day, I had all these leads coming in because we did a lot of short sales and REOs. And so I had the listings and I had all these buyer leads coming in, and I couldn't handle all these leads. I was like, I don't know what to do with these. So first call was, I called a buddy of mine who had a brokerage, and I was like, hey dude, I get all these leads. I'm going to just send them to you once a week. And then like, you just let all your agents follow up. And if you guys close something, send me a referral fee. Like, bro, I exported weekly. Like, it's crazy to think about that. Just a weekly export of leads. Now we're like worrying about seconds to, from lead to initial contact. And back then it was like a weekly export. So needless to say, that never worked. And then I tried to just have a couple buddies be buyer's agents. Again, I had, I did exactly what I'm telling you.
Buddies, hire people that are like you. Yep.
And I just had 2 buddies. They're like, dude, I'll take your buyer leads. They never closed anything either. And then finally I was like, all right, I got to go all in. And then I did, but then I hired everybody. I hired anybody with a pulse, right? Same way you got a mortgage back in 2005 was the same way you got on my team. Like, here's a mirror. If you can fog it, you can be on my team. Yeah. And that didn't work either. So like, I've made so many of these mistakes, throughout the years. I feel like I've really kind of honed in on what it takes to do it the right way today.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's dive into it. I got a ton of questions for you, but I think we're going to unpack a lot of it as you go through these 5 key steps in really building, a team, probably no matter what size team, the same principles apply, in today's market and moving into the future.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, number one is just I've learned nobody teaches you how to run a business unless you've like gone to business school. Nowhere in your educational system does anybody teach you how to build a business. They don't teach you in high school. They don't teach you in college. They don't teach you in real estate school. None of these freaking coaches teach it. Nope. Right? All these coaches, all they want to teach you is the new app, the new widget, the new AI, the new lead source, because that's sexy. But that's not how to build a business. And so I realized, like, if I want to learn how to run a real business, I need to go outside of the industry. I need to learn how to run a true business. And so I joined this thing called Entrepreneur Organization. which is just other entrepreneurs that have all founded businesses. Depending on where you're located, there's a minimum income level to join this group. You join within entrepreneur organization, you have a chapter. So San Diego, there's like 200 people in our chapter. Then within the chapter, you have a small group called a forum, usually 6 to 10 people in your forum that you get together with. And within that forum, you have no two people in the same industry. So my forum, I got a guy who has a digital marketing agency, a guy who runs wilderness retreats for Fortune 500 companies, a guy who launches products on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, a mortgage guy, a guy who flips hundreds of thousands of event tickets a month, a guy who owns as a restaurateur, a guy who does health and nutrition products on Amazon, right? Like all these different types of businesses. And what I found is all these people in entrepreneur organization all kept mentioning this thing called EOS. I was like, what the hell is EOS? And EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. If you want to learn about this, there's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And I don't read. I've never read a book in my life, but I listened to the first chapter of this book, and it just helped me realize how screwed up my organization was, that I didn't really have a business. And it really kind of like broke me down, which if you watch any of these shows, Bar Rescue, Kitchen Nightmares, all that stuff, like they always break something down before they build it back up. And that book like broke me down and realized how like screwed up what I had was, and I really didn't have anything. But then it taught me a system of how to actually run a freaking business, something that I'd never been taught before. And that was a pivotal moment in the growth of my team, because now everything is systemized, like our accountability chart. Everybody know, and you realize I call that an accountability chart, not an org chart. And then org chart a lot of times is missing who's accountable to who. So an accountability chart takes an organizational chart to another level and make sure that we have very clear roles and responsibilities, but also who's accountable to whom, which a lot of organizations lack. So it provided that for us. It provided this thing that they call an integrator. A lot of businesses would call it a COO, but a lot of us go to these conferences and these coaches are, you come home and you got 40 pages of notes. And a lot of us come back to our team. We're like, all right, guys, here's all these new things we're going to do. And we just puke all these ideas all over our team, but we haven't thought through any of these ideas. Like, which ones make sense now? Maybe some need to happen later. How does it affect this? How does it connect to that system? Like, we don't think through those things, right? We're what Traction or what EOS calls a visionary. But now I have this integrator role, which is this person that now, instead of dumping these 40 pages of notes on my team, I dump them on him. Mm-hmm. And he sifts and sorts through all these ideas and figures out which ones make sense. When do they make sense? How are we going to roll them out? What about this? What about that? How does it connect to this? How does it connect to that? How do all of the what ifs, right? Somebody who thinks through all of that stuff, so that now when you do roll these things out, they roll out seamlessly to your company, which is huge, right? We're our own worst enemy when we go to these events and come back with all these notes. Or you have the alternate problem where you go to and you have all these ideas, but you never do anything with them. You're usually one of two camps. You either try to do everything or you do nothing. The integrator makes sure you do what you need to do and what makes sense for your business where it's at today. Also having a really solid meeting pulse, as they call it. So when do we meet? And then what's the agenda when we meet, right? Very clear, like we have this meeting every week called a L10 or level 10 meeting. And there's a very clear agenda. It's the same time, the same day every week. There's the same agenda. Everybody knows what they're responsible for bringing to it. We know we spend 5 minutes on this, 5 on this, 5 on this, 60 on this, right? Like it just gives you such a solid system to follow, where most of us are getting on a meeting. And it's like, all right, guys, well, what do you got for me? Like, that's not a meeting. That's just a waste of time in my eyes. So making sure that you have solid meetings. So that's crucial, because most of us are just running on a system of survival. We're just trying to get by. And my integrator, he calls it burger flipping. Like, right, we're coming up 4th of July in a few days. Most of you are sitting there cooking on the grill. You got a bunch of burgers. Like, what do you do when you're cooking burgers? They're like, oh shit, that one's on fire. Flip that one. Oh, there's a fire over there. Flip that one. Oh damn, I burned this one. Throw it out. Like, that's what most of us are doing. We're just burger flipping.
That's great.
Or burger managing is what I think the technical term he uses. Like, a lot of us, that's how we run our team. We just burger manage it. Whatever's on fire, that's what we tend to. That's not a system for running a business. So implementing a system like EOS or Entrepreneurial Operating Systems, great. And there's other ones out there, 40X or Scaling Up from Vern Harnish. There's other options. So Not that EOS is like the only possible solution. Just get a solution that puts a system in place for your business. Like that's probably been the most game-changing thing that we've done in the last 5 years.
You're so spot on. And we gravitated just a little bit before we came over to EXP. We gravitated to the VTO and to EOS just because we felt, because we're Vern disciples, right? Master Rockefeller habits, and then the transition into scaling up. And I was like, man, this is complicated. This is like really like over my head, over a lot of people's heads. And when I saw VTO and the EOS, I'm like, this makes sense. Like this just makes so much sense. It's easier. All I have to answer is 8 questions, and then getting into that meeting rhythm and that pulse. And you made a really good point, because most people that are agents or that get into real estate, they are of some type of entrepreneurial bug or a visionary. And part of the responsibility of what you do in the visionary aspect is to come up with ideas. I mean, that is your job to have ideas, but you got to have a system to sift through those. And the integrator is the sifter, or you'll just kill the whole organization because you're just dumping a bunch of ideas on everybody. And the downside with a bunch of ideas, and I saw this firsthand, is that they will hear your idea and then they'll just nod their head and then they'll just go back doing what they were doing. Right. Because they're like, why am I listening to this? Because he'll go to another conference next week and you'll have another 10 ideas and we won't even, be able to implement this through. So not even having a plan of what we're going to execute. So, so good.
What's funny, dude, is my previous coach and we parted ways a few years ago, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Like going to all those events was completely destroying me. It was destroying my mindset, because like I'd go to this event and I'd hear all these new things and then I'd come back with all these ideas, but then I'm like behind because I was at this event. So then I get back and now I'm like playing catch up from all the time that I was gone. And then by the time I'm finally caught up and start thinking about implementing something, it's like the next event is happening. And I was just in this cycle. It was like, I swear there's an event every month or two. Sometimes there was multiple events in 1 month, and it was like, I was just in this like event, like tornado, right? Just sitting around in freaking
circle. You live in the event destination capital of the world. So that makes it even more challenging.
Yeah. So it was like, and then it was like, I always had all these new ideas and I felt all this pressure to implement all these things that I was hearing people talk about. And it's like, dude, like we don't need any of that crap. Like at the end of the day, like I boiled down this, here's how you win in this industry. Whoever has the most relationships and the most conversations is going to win. Those are the only 2 things you need. Like most relationships, most conversations. There's no new tech, new tools, new widgets, you don't need any of that shit. Like just have a ton of relationships and be in conversation with them. That's it. What's hilarious to me is like, now that I've done this for 20 years, the coaches that I used to shit on back in the day, I actually think are the best coaches in the industry. Who's that? Mike Ferry and Brian Buffini.
Yeah.
Because what does Brian
relationships and conversations?
Relationships. What does Mike Ferry teach you? Conversations.
Yep.
I actually I've been listening to more of their stuff lately than all the other guys that are focused on tech. Because at the end of the day, relationships and conversations is all you need to be successful.
On the business side of things, especially expanding our mindset, when we uncovered and tapped into Jay Abraham is when everything shifted for us. And that was, like you said, going out of the industry, looking at different things and being able to think. And we were fortunate enough. We weren't able, just being a small town, really to tap into in EO. We would have, I don't even know where we would have had to have gone. I mean, we'd have had to seriously travel. But we were fortunate enough through the chamber that we were able to kind of develop our own EO through the chamber with small business. And I mean, even to this day, I mean, like some of the best relationships came from small business owners through the connections we made through that. So it's a prime example. So I absolutely love that, getting outside, but getting into, get into some EO organization would be killer. Yeah. All right. What's our next step?
Systems. So once you have a system of actually how to like run the business. So when I say system, I'm talking about a business operating system, not, StreamYard, Follow Up Boss, YouTube, whatever. Like those are different type of systems. One of the big things that they teach you in EOS is you have to have all of your processes documented and followed by all. So processes is so huge. If you want to scale up an organization, there's got to be processes that everybody follows, or SOPs as they're often referred to in the military and a lot of other things. You got to establish a system of SOPs. of how do we do things, right? Here we call it the Whissel way. Like that's how we
I
do
love
it
that.
the Whissel
Yep.
way,
Name
right?
it.
So naming is a huge thing, right? Like name everything that you do, whether it's internal or external, right? We have marketing things. We have something called the 7-day listing launch, which is just what do we do the 7 days before we launch a listing, right? When some of that is photography, social media, like things we all do, but when you give it a name, it actually means something.
Yeah. And
Same
just
thing.
imagine saying that to a client, right? Hey, we're gonna put you into, you're part of the Whissel way. We're gonna put you into our 7-day launch. Oh, 7 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's
And it's
told you about that.
trademarked
Yeah, it
by the
takes
U.S.
7.
Patent and Trademark Office, right?
Yeah.
Like that, it's very different than just telling them 7 things you do. When you actually trademark what you do, it hits different. Even though it's the same thing, when you give it a name and you trademark it, it's completely different. So building out these processes, we use a system called Trainual.
Yep.
So training and manual mixed together. It's called Trainual. That's our system of choice. If you guys ever want to talk about it, DM me. I'll connect you with them. They're great. But now we have everything in Trainual. So how do I do this? How do I do that? Basically, it's a whole frequently asked questions system, an FAQ system. It's also a LMS or a learning management system. So we can record all of our trainings to teach people the Whissel way of doing things. And that's the learning management system side of it. And then it's to support that, there's also the frequently asked questions part of it. So we train them inside of Trainual. And then they also have the FAQ where they can go in and just type in like, how do I submit this form, or who's the vendor for this, or whatever. And all the answers for everything
searchable.
they ever need are all inside of that system, which if you want to scale, you need to make sure that people are all following the same system, because if everybody's doing their own thing, it's a train wreck. I don't even know how you support people. Like I've talked to some people who run teams and they're like, I just let my agents hire their own TCs. I'm like, huh? Wow. Like how the amount of time you're going to spend trying to make sure all these TCs give you what you need for a complete file. Like that's insane to me, right? Everybody does it the Whissel way. We all do it the same way. So you have everything, all of your SOPs in there, and then all of your frequently asked questions in there. And then the other thing that we do is we've invested money into good quality video equipment for our office meetings. And we do like a daily huddle. So we record everything. And then everything that's recorded goes into Trainual as well. So every meeting we've ever done is in there, right? Every huddle we've ever done is in there. Like I did a huddle this morning that was on how to increase a buyer's affordability by $100,000. Like that's a good meeting that people should be able to find anytime. Right? We don't want to hide that to where it's impossible for people to find that. So having a system like Trainual that can have all of your SOPs and your FAQs and hopefully your recorded meetings, having those all in one place, the amount of time that saves me and my team answering questions is insane.
Yeah. You don't want to be the guy that has to repeat yourself for things that can be easily uncovered. And I love that, right? Because I've seen like a lot of teams, they'll create a lot of static type of documents and SOPs that are not active. Yeah. And meaning you can't get to them, right? They're there, they're on Google Drive, but how do you use them? How do you find them? You like nobody knows. So I love that being able to put it in there because it has to be searchable. They're there. That's how they become active and a part of the day-to-day execution of being able to effectively do what it is that you're there to do.
Totally. And then we have inside of Slack, we have a Trainual channel. So what happens is as people ask questions or they like mention a vendor, anything like that, if we believe that that's something that would be valuable for the future, we just push that Slack post to the Trainual channel. And then there's a person who takes the information and extracts it from the conversation and puts it into Trainual. Because if we see a conversation happening in Slack and we know that conversation is likely to happen again, or maybe it's already happened in the past, let's avoid ever having this conversation again. Let's put this information into Trainual. And now the next time somebody has a question, they always know they go to Trainual first before they go to Slack or anywhere else to ask their question. So now if somebody has that same question again, it's not going to take up anybody's time or distract anybody. It's going to be, the answer is going to be in Trainual. Or if somebody worked with a new home inspector or a roofer or a plumber and they had a good experience, we'll put them into the vendor section of Trainual because those are the most common questions that get asked. Is vendor stuff. So all of our vendors are there, right? So the agents, if they need a plumber, they type plumber in Trainual and boom, all the plumbers are in there with their contact. And the one thing we've done too is we make sure that if an agent is going to recommend a vendor, they have to have used them and they're willing to put their name on them. So that way, if I call Bob the plumber and he's not doing a good job, I could see Brian recommended him. And I'm like, hey, Brian, can you call Bob? Because I'm having some problems with him. So we won't just throw like, oh, my friend's a plumber, can we put him on there? No, unless you've used him and you'll put your name on him, we're not adding them to that vendor list, because we need to make sure these guys are going to be a good representation of our company.
100%, right? And like the example you gave, I just let them hire their own TC. I mean, you talk about inconsistencies in the experience, inconsistencies all the way across the board, and ultimately at the end of the day, it's your if it's your team, your company, it's your reputation, it's totally. You at the end of the day.
Totally. So next one is having standards. So one of the things I talk to so many people that are like, oh, well, our standard is you got to sell a home a month. Okay. So 12 months from now, John sold 9 homes. Are you firing him? Well, then it's not a standard. Yeah. Right? It's a suggestion at that point. So there's a saying that I love. It's expectations without enforcement are simply suggestions. Expectations without enforcement are simply suggestions. And most team leaders have a whole lot of suggestions, but they don't have any actual standards, because they're not enforcing these expectations they've set for people. So on our team, like we have 2 sets of expectations. One is activity-based, things like showing up to meetings, attending open houses, attending huddles, role plays, things like that. So there's certain numbers of, each activity that you have to complete. And those activities change as your production changes. So as you do more production, I have less expectations of you attending those things, right? Like if you're selling 5 homes a month, but I'm not going to bug you to get on, the role play call every day. Clearly, you know what you're doing. But if you haven't sold a home in 5 months, you better get your ass on that role play every single day, right? Yeah. So the expectations align with the production, but we have very clear expectations. And if you're not showing up, then you're not going to be on this team, right? We'll put you on probation. We'll give you a month to turn it around. And if not, you're fired. And the beautiful thing is we never have to actually fire people. They just leave because they know they didn't hit the expectation. They got put on probation. They know they didn't do what they needed to. They usually just walk, which is great. So they can say like, you didn't fire me, I quit. Like, it's cool. It's fine with me. But we rarely even have the firing conversation because they already know. And then additionally, we have minimums for production. So now understand every market's different. I'm in San Diego. Our average price is like $800,000. So it's different here than if you're in like,
Lawton, Oklahoma.
Right, Oklahoma. Lawton, Oklahoma. It's going to be a little different. So for us, our minimum is you got to pen 2 deals in the first 6 months, right? To show you got it. We'll give you 6 months of rope. But if you can't pen at least 2 deals in the first 6 months, it's probably not for you. And then from that point on, it's 6 a year. And that if you sell 5, I will fire you. Like that's just what it is.
It's because it's a standard.
That is a true standard, right? Because we're actually enforcing the expectations. So that's the standard to be a part of our team is once after those first 6 months, you have to sell 6 homes a year. They just asked me today, right? They're like, hey, this girl, she missed the mark. We put her on probation. She didn't hit it. We love her. And it's like, I love you too. Bye. Yeah. And we have to set that example too, because if we keep her around, everybody else sees we're keeping her around. They know she's not selling any houses. Mm-hmm. So if we keep her around, that's telling everybody it's okay to not be nice, but not sell houses.
What you just did is you lowered your standard from 6 to 5 is what happened. And the best one I heard on this was the only standards you have are the standards you enforce.
Yeah.
And if you don't enforce it, you don't have a standard, right? Like you said, you just have an expectation. You just have suggestion. I like the suggestion. That's exactly what it is. That's so good.
Yeah. So this girl, I love her. She's such a good culture fit, but dude, you can't perform. Sorry. What's funny is we do a meeting with our top agents every 2 weeks. I grab coffee with them, and we'll segue into like the next point because it ties into this. But it's funny that one of the girls there mentioned at our coffee there today. She's like, my favorite thing you guys do is every quarter when you mention how many people we've offboarded. Right? She's like, I love when you show that you offboarded 25 people. She's like, I absolutely love that. That's my favorite slide you show every quarter, because she's up here. She doesn't want these people down here, right, that are dragging the company down, that are also, they're hurting the company's reputation, right? Because they're out there just willy-nilly, like, they're not top tier. Like they want to be associated with the top. That's why Compass does so well, right? Like Compass, people want to be there because the best agents are there, and best agents want to be surrounded by other best agents, right? And we want that same thing here, right? We want to be known that that's where the best agents are, is at Whissel. Like that's what we want. We don't want to be known that we have, the most agents. We want to be known that we have the best agents.
I love that. So you said something, what are you known for? And what do you want to be known for? And you better have the standards in place to enforce it if that's what you want to be known for. Or you're going to be known for the person that just gets ran over and doesn't hold the agents accountable and lets them just kind of do whatever they want. Do you want that
Sloppy
reputation?
ass offers is a pain in the ass when they're under contract with somebody. The deals are closing late, right? Like I don't want that reputation. I want the reputation when one of my agents calls and says, "Hey, John, it's Kyle over at Whissel Realty Group." Immediately positive thought. Like I want an immediate positive connotation.
I want to work with this because I know this deal's going to happen.
Oh, they're with Whissel. They know what they're doing. Like that's what I want, right? I want to stand out from the next person that calls and they're like, "Who are you? What company?" Right? Like, because that matters as we, right now it's not a competitive market, but when it's a competitive market, that matters a lot.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
I would say actually it does matter in a down market too, because I don't know about how it is in Oklahoma or Pennsylvania, but in San Diego, it's a down market right now. Yeah. And most of the country is a down market. Some people might not actually realize it's a down market, but it is. In a down market where you're having to convince your seller to take an offer below what they wanted, when I can go to my seller and say, "Hey, I know this offer is not exactly where you want to be, but John is an amazing agent. I've worked with John before. He does a great job. And he's going to get this thing closed. So I know it's not the number you want, but this thing's going to get done. There's not going to be any gains. He's not going to come at us with some crazy request for repairs. Like it's going to be a very smooth, clean deal."
So important.
That matters even in a down market.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's so important. And it just comes back down to, the brand that you want to build, which is just your reputation. And, what type of reputation do you want to have in the marketplace?
Yep, exactly.
I love that. So so how does that segue into our fourth point?
Yeah. So the fourth one is people. What I found is when we started being really good about these standards, and we put these reports out every week, we show here's where you're at with your activities. And I got in this really negative cycle, dude, where I would look at the bottom. Why isn't she doing what she's supposed to? Why is he still here? Why haven't we fired that girl? I would be in that mindset. That's a horrible place to be. It's really horrible to be stuck in this mindset of just immediately not look up here. I'm down here. Yeah. That's a really bad place to be. So by having those standards in place, I know that the system, there's a saying EOS teaches you too, right? The systems run the company, the people run the systems. So the system is in place to cut those people off the bottom. I don't have to worry about them because the system is going to take care of that, right? And the people will run the system. So what I had to really shift my mind to was I just need to focus on the top. Why am I spending this time, attention, and bandwidth on these people at the bottom that put me in a negative headspace when I got people like Adrian and Jen and Carly and Mike up at the top that fuel me, right? Because I love those guys. Man, I could just point them in a direction and before I'm even done telling them what to do, they're running, right? Yeah. Blindly. They just Kyle said, go that way. I'm going to run that way. That's fun. That fuels me, man. And that's what I enjoy, which ties back to the whole beginning of this. I get a high off of that. I get a high off helping Adrian. Adrian did over $1 million in GCI last year. I couldn't be more excited for him, right? He's on the cover. Where is it? Look, he's on the cover of Real Producers this month. That makes me freaking happy, man. I love that. I don't want to be in the mindset where I'm staring at these people at the bottom, figuring out how am I going to get them out of bed? Fuck that. That's terrible. So I've just shifted my mindset to all I do is focus on the people at the top. Now understand my organization's big. I have 120 agents. I have 14 stateside staff, 23 international staff. So I have a big staff. But all I do is focus on the people at the top.
Yeah.
And I just love on them and I support them. I know what's happening in their lives. I'm grabbing coffee with them regularly. I'm coached. The only people I'll coach on the team are my top agents. But that shit fuels me, man. It gets me excited. I'm excited to hop on a call with Adrian, right? That's fun for me. I'm excited to help Carly, right? That stuff's really fun for me and it fuels me. And that's where I need to focus my time and attention. And if I keep them happy, they'll actually help that middle tier. They'll actually, because they're happy, they want to be here and they feel supported, they're willing to support other people.
That's the whole creating leaders, right? You're cascading and they're cascading and they're cascading. Yeah, man, that's so spot on.
The more I hug them and hold them close, the more they hug the next tier. And there's somebody was telling me this, like there's like 20, 60, 20. So like the 20 at the bottom, I don't even know most of their names, and I'll tell that to their face, right? Like, I don't even care who you are until you start selling some homes, right? Show me or you don't have to sell homes, just show me effort and energy, right? Like that you're going to show up. But then that 60%, the beauty is if I focus on the top 20, those people will actually support the middle 60.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually even built something called our board of advisors. So our people that are up there at the top, they are incentivized to help the people in the middle.
What else are you seeing kind of the DNA makeup of those top 20%? Like, you know, I mean, obviously you're not getting into even into the Whissel organization unless there's some core value alignment. There's some certain things, right, that they have to see to even be able to get on board. But what elevates them that you've seen that elevates to the top 20%?
They just run the play that's called.
Mm.
They just run the play that's called, right? And I know you're a sports guy too. Like the problem, and one of my mentors was talking about this yesterday. He's like, what do I do with these guys? They just won't listen. Because you get a lot of these, and it's, you know, the younger agents tend to be the worst at this. Like we teach them, like we have something inside of Triannual, our core 4. Like these are the 4 things you have to focus on if you're going to be at Whissel. And then we encourage them to add 1 to 2 like sources of business or pillars to it. But you focus on your core 4 and then add 1 to 2 on top of that. The problem is the agents were like, I know you said this is what works, but I'm going to go do that. Those are the people who really struggle. The ones that succeed, they're like, Kyle said, these are the core 4. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do what Kyle says, right? Kyle has now sold like over 6,000 homes. He sold billions and billions of dollars of real estate. My best year, I had a month where I sold like 27 houses in a month. Like, if you don't trust me, you don't believe me that I know what I'm doing, get the fuck off my team. Dude. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you don't trust me and believe in me to lead you, you shouldn't be here. So if I'm teaching you, these are the core 4 things you need to do. If you don't do those, you're probably gonna, you're gonna burn out. But the top agents, they just run the play that's called. Here's the core 4. Kyle said these are the 4 things I should focus on. That's what I'm gonna do. And those agents do the best.
I had Blake Sloan on. He did a topic call, training call for us a couple weeks ago, and you know he's committed to his fitness. And in his last 7 years, right? Like he doesn't miss, and his body weight really hasn't fluctuated much. And so he's like, man, I got to make a change. So he hired a professional bodybuilder on the nutritional side of things, and he came back to the trainer and he said, dude, man, so they're focused on macros, right? Yeah, that's it. Focus on the macros. And he goes, dude, man, I feel like I'm just eating so much. And the trainer just looked at him and basically said, shut the fuck up and just follow the macros. And he goes, got it. Makes sense. Got it.
I think I probably hired the same person. And yeah, I was like, I have to eat more? Like, eat. Get your protein. I'm like,
trust the process.
I don't want to. I'm full.
Yeah.
Eat.
Run the play. Run the play. I love that. That is so spot on. That is so good.
So, I mean, that's the big difference. The agents who are the most successful on the team, they run the play that's called. And they don't even worry about anything outside those core 4 in the beginning. And then once they really master those, then we start talking about adding, like Evan, who's like 2 years in on my team, top 5 agent. Like now he's adding probate onto that because he's like really passionate about that. So like he's adding probate as a pillar. But some people, they try to add.
Is your core 4, pillars. Is it an activity or is it a core 4? On
core 4 is our leads. So really understanding in and out of how do the leads get to you? What do you do when they get to you? How do you convert them? All that. Sphere, open house, and social media. Like those are the 4 pillars that we have them focused on. Make sure they know those inside and out before they worry about adding anything on top of that.
I freaking love that. That's so good. That's really good. I love that. So cool. Yeah, man, people, it's having the right people that, you know, want to live to the standard and that really, like you said, just trust the process.
Yeah. And not be afraid. Like we've had multiple scenarios where I've been fired out of multiple seats on the team personally. And I fired people like Mike Proctor, who's one of my top, I think number 2 in the company last year. Like I fired him as a sales manager.
I think I had him on Expert Mentors as he was a sales manager. Yeah.
Yeah. And I fired him as a sales manager and I rehired him as an agent and he did like 800,000 in GCI last year. Like it was the right person, complete core value fit, just wrong seat. Sales manager. It sounds fun to like teach other people and manage them, but it's not as fun as people think because you're like, you know, as a top agent, you just run the play that's called, right? So it's easy. Just do what Kyle says and you'll be really successful. And then these other people don't do what they know they need to do. And that's hard for somebody
what he
like
gets to
Mike,
deal with, right? What he gets to deal with is he gets to deal with the 80%, the 60s and the 20s. That's what he gets to deal with. He doesn't get to do what he wants to do and deal with the 20s because he's got to worry about the 60s and the 20s. Yeah.
So it just didn't work, right? He was running people off left and right because he's just like, "Are you fucking stupid? Just work. What's wrong with you?" Like,
stop flipping the burgers
to manage people. But we put him back in an agent role, and he's having the time of his life. Like he's crushing it.
Probably happier too.
Like my executive assistant Lisa, we put her in a role to run something, and it was just not a fit at all. Fired her from that, put her back in an executive assistant role, and she's one of the best in the business. So, not only having relationships with your people, but also having the right people in the right seats is huge.
Yeah. And I think, EOS will pull that out of there, right? Get it one at capacity for it, right? As you go through and you can really uncover. And I did the same thing. I hired, somebody, overseas. She's still on the team. She's been with me for almost 5 years. And she came in as a social media and I got to know her a little bit and what her passions were. She's a freaking English major and she loves to write. So guess what she does? She just writes copy. That's all she does. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So put them in the seat where they'll thrive.
Yeah. Cool, man. And the last one is you just got to have a consistent recruiting funnel, right? So some of you guys are watching this or listening to this and you're hearing me like talk about how many people we fire and it freaks you out, or the thought of even firing anybody from your team freaks you out. I don't fear that at all because I know every month we have a badass recruiter and we're bringing in 10 agents a month on average. So I'm not worried about firing a couple agents this month because I know I got 10 new agents who are going to start next month. And it helps you because otherwise you end up in this like scarcity mindset. You keep people around longer than you should that are probably toxic for your environment. But you're like, well, they sell a few homes a year, so I make some money off of them. But they're running people off from the organization. But you keep them because you got nobody to replace them. So we typically try to bring 10 agents in a month. The goal is to cut 2 agents during training. They do 2 weeks, 30-hour weeks, so 60 hours of total training. We want to cut 2 during training. A lot of times one will tap out because they just can't handle it because it's more than they thought it would be. And then we usually fire one. What I found is that when somebody joins our team, the traditional interview process is 2 to 3 hours. Somebody can mask who they really are for 2 or 3 hours of interviews. Right. But once they're in training for 2 weeks, 30 hours a week, they can't mask that anymore. Like your mask comes off, you get exposed. So I want my trainer to be like that second line of defense, just in case somebody slid through the interview process. Let's cut them at training before we waste any time on them. So that could be they're showing up late, they're disrespectful in the training, they're they're on their phone all the time, they don't respect the dress code, or they're just stupid. Like you can't always tell if somebody's stupid in 2 hours of interviews, but 60 hours of training, we can find out if you're stupid. So we try to cut 2 during training. We usually end up cutting 2 at the 6-month check mark and then 2 more at the 12-month check mark. So by the time we go 12 months later, we're usually keeping 4 out of 10 from each training class. But those 4 are quality agents, right? If we can get them to do 6 deals, which is about 5 million in volume, if we can get them to do like 5 million in volume in their first year, that second year, they usually jump to 10 to 15 million pretty easily. So if we just know we're going to get 4 people out of every training class, so a net 4 per month. And that's how we built this team is we just don't put up with bullshit. We cut people and we cut people that, violate our core values too. We had a girl who was really good, really strong, but she couldn't keep her hands to herself. And I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to keep her around because otherwise if I do, I'm telling everybody it's okay to do that kind of stuff. Right. So we cut that. We cut quality producers for violating core values.
I love that. And that's, I always lead because I'm a big vision guy. Just because I've been a part of organizations where there is no vision and, it's so important. And, that key element within the vision is always led with the values, the shoulds and should nots, the non-negotiables. And so I know we didn't really get into that, but I appreciate you sharing that example because, honestly, if you're wanting to build a team, it's a house of cards if you don't build it on a foundation of values that you will, like you said, fire somebody over.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, but you can't allow somebody's production to factor into your decision-making process when it comes to core values.
Yeah.
Like it's just not okay, no matter what. I don't care if you sell 1 home or 100 homes. Like, keep your hands to yourself. That's not gonna
Yeah. Some things you definitely don't want to be known as that team, right? And especially young. I remember, I mean, Kinder and I, we were 20, 27, 28 and starting out and, aggressive and but I mean, we, one of our values was work hard, play hard. And, I mean, obviously that's changed as we got a little bit older. I mean, we still do that, but I wouldn't have that as one of our values, right, coming in. So I think it's super, super important to be able to have that. And like you said, you have those, if you have those values, but you don't hold to them, right? Like if you would have allowed her to stay on, that would have been, oh, that's Kyle's standard. That's the Kyle.
Yep.
That's that. Oh, that's the Whissel way.
Yeah. As long as you produce, you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can't have that.
Exactly. Man, brother, you are absolutely amazing and definitely one of the greats, one of the icons, tremendous leader. I love, your leadership style. Everybody's a little bit different. Like I talked about Blake, Blake's more, command and control. Not really. He lets his people do, but he's a little bit different, leading a different way, just like you're leading, your way, true to who you are, to your character and to your values, which is just, it's super awesome, man, to be able to see. And I couldn't agree with you more, man. It really ties into set standards, have systems, active systems. That's what I love about, like what you said about Trainial, being able to search, being able to get everything in there. A little bit of the Ray Dalio, right? Radically transparent, of having all of your meetings recorded and put in there to be able to see, holding the standard, having the right people. And then, man, just consistent in the recruiting. Always be looking for talent. Always be bringing talent in.
Yeah, Chuck Black says, right, if you want somebody to step up, just hire their replacement.
All the time.
And when we have new people that come in and are putting, like I had to throw Elena in the other room, like she was here before me this morning. Like I give her a shout out and I put it out there publicly, right? Like I want to show some of these people who've gotten comfortable, like, this girl is going to come eat your lunch, man. Like if you don't start showing up, she's going to take everything from you. So when we have new people who come in that are doing a great job, like put them on a pedestal. Yeah. And it helps people realize like, oh man, I better get my act together. I'm going to be gone.
I'll tell you one of the things, and you shared it last year when we had you on, back to your meeting cadence and your meeting rhythm, and not even starting a meeting until you get those shout outs and really acknowledging everybody within the organization. It does something to the culture, right? It forces you to pay attention to what people are doing instead of just so focused on yourself. And I think that's where the cascading from the 20 down to, the 60 happens, right? When they're paying attention, they're seeing what other people are doing to be able to get those shout outs.
Totally.
It's cool. Brother, I appreciate you. You're awesome. Guys, make sure listening in, give Kyle tons of love, and look forward to having you back in doing it again, brother.
Yeah, if you guys want to stay connected, you can go to thewhisselway.com. You can subscribe to like our podcast, our YouTube channel, join our referral network. We got a ton of people leaving California, so we send multiple referrals out every week. You can get on our email newsletter, our Facebook group, where we share a lot of tips and tricks. We have a whole course on like content creation if you want to level that up. So it's all at thewhisselway.com. Or if you want to just stay connected, you guys have questions, just hit me up on Instagram at Kyle Whissel. I respond to all my messages personally. Nobody else checks those. So if there's any questions, anything that I can help with, just hit me up on Instagram.
That's awesome, brother. Giving as always. Appreciate you, guys.
All right, sounds good, brother. We'll talk to you later.
See you, man. Later.